Welcome to the 2015 Academy Sports and Outdoor North Texas Soccer Tournament of Champions. We want to congratulate each and every one of y'all for your success during the season. This year we have one of the largest tournaments that we've had in several years. We have just at almost 500 teams that will be competing, representing each of their associations in this year's tournament. What we want to do is we want to spend a few minutes and go over some of the logistics and things to expect as you head into this weekend. We figure that doing this via video is a lot easier than trying to come and attend a coaches meeting. So hopefully this will be very helpful. First of all, on behalf of all of North Texas, the North Texas Board of Directors and all the volunteers, congratulations. When you arrive at the tournament, there are a few expectations. First of all, before your first game, you will be required to check in at the tournament headquarters tent at the complex where your first game is played 1 hour prior to your first game. The reason for this is to pick up the goodies and everything that will be given to the coach and to the players. So be sure and check in 1 hour prior to your first game at the complex tent. Some of the logistics of how this weekend will operate. First of all, at the game, you will be required to have in your possession a copy of a signed roster signed by your registrar and by your coach. Even though we did online check-in, it is still required that you must have this in your possession should it be requested. Secondly, you're required to have a copy of a medical release for every player that will be participating. The coach should have that in their possession in the event that it is needed. At the games, the referees will be bringing the game reports out to the field. They will hold on to that until after the game. You do not need to bring any game reports, print any game reports, or prepare any game reports to bring with you. Those are provided by the referee. After the game, you will then go out to the field. You will go out and meet the referee in order to verify the scores and make sure that they are correct. You will also verify to make sure cautions and send-offs are also appropriate on the form. The winning team will then be responsible for taking that form and returning it back to the tournament headquarters tent at that complex. In the event of a tie game, the home team will return that form back to the headquarters tent. In the event that there is a red card that is issued during the game, the player will not be allowed to participate in the next game if that red card was a straight red card. If it was the result of 2 yellow cards in the game, the player still cannot participate in the remainder of that game, but would be eligible to participate in his next game. Do not forget that there is card accumulation. In the event that 3 cautions are accumulated in pool play, then the player will be required to have to sit out a game. If we do have any parent issues during the game, the referees are instructed to come to the coaches to deal with any parent issues. This means that this will prevent the referees from dealing directly with the parents, but it will mean that as coaches you are responsible for the parents and the players of your team. If a referee asks you to either remove or to speak to your parents, then it is expected that you will do so. In the event that you do not do so, then the action will be taken towards you as the coach due to that responsibility. So please prevent that problem by helping the referees if the parents become out of control. We highly recommend that before the tournament that you remind the parents that they do represent their associations and that their conduct is expected to be positive and encouraging to the players. Playing time. It is a requirement in recreational soccer that all players must participate in 50% of the game. We will have monitors out throughout the complexes monitoring this to make sure that it is being adhered to. In the event that you play a team and you do not believe that they played a player 50% of the time, you may come after the game and make us aware of it up at the tent. However, please understand that we cannot take any action on that particular game. It does allow us to watch for future games so that we can make sure that they are adhering to the rule. As coaches, you do have an ethic responsibility to make sure that you are playing your players 50% of the time. So please do not make this an issue and simply follow the rule. Another issue that we tend to see, and we do not like to see, is coaches that feel as though that they will play players that are not on their roster. Sometimes it's done thinking it's good intention because all of a sudden they have a couple of players that can't play. If the player is not on your roster, you cannot play them in TOC. If you choose to play a player that is not on your roster, and we discover that that player was not on that roster, then you as the coach can be held responsible, and it could result in a suspension of up to 1 year from all soccer-related activities. So please be very careful. We are out. We do roster checks to confirm that we do have the proper players playing. So do not make this an issue. This is for the kids. As far as the games, every year we face the problem with teams that choose to withdraw from the tournament prior to the start of the first game, but after the final schedule has been published. In the event that this happens, there are two issues that will take place. First of all, any team that withdraws from the tournament within 2 weeks of the tournament shall be suspended from all tournament play pending a hearing before the North Texas Cup and Games Committee. That is a North Texas rule. This is to prevent these exact situations where teams show up and they do not have an opponent to play. So teams are required to show and play. But in the event that a team does withdraw for whatever reason prior to their first game, and that includes not showing up for their first game, then that will be considered a withdrawal prior to the start of the tournament. Should a team withdraw prior to the start of the tournament, but it still be scheduled within the games, we will assure that in the schedule that we placed withdrew next to the team's name, and we will try to notify the team so that they are aware that they do not have to show for those games, but they will not be scored as forfeits. They are simply games that are not played. Game averaging will be used to determine the advancement, so we do not score the games as forfeits. We do have some age groups that do have 5-team brackets. I know this makes it very difficult because 4 games are required to be played during pool play. This means that in some cases teams may have to play 4 games in one day. We don't like that situation, but in order for all teams to be able to participate, we don't have a choice but to deal with that with 5 teams. 5 teams also affect us in the event that we come down to having to select wild cards for advancement. When we have to utilize the 5-team bracket within there to determine who's going to advance, in many cases we have to use game averaging. That is the only way to make sure that if there were unequal numbers of games played between teams, that we can advance the proper teams. So please understand that if there is a 5-team group and there is a wild card that will be coming, game averaging will be utilized. Should we have ties when determining who's going to advance? When we do the ties, we will base it upon the number of games played. So in some cases, game averaging will be used. We hope to not have to do that very often, but as I said, if we have a 5-team group, or in the event that we have a situation where teams did not show for certain games, then we're left with no choice other than to have to use game averaging. So please understand that we will have to use that in some cases. Every team is responsible for checking Got Soccer online to determine whether or not their team advances. In some cases, teams think, oh, there is absolutely no way that I'm going to advance this year. But once game averaging is used, a team may advance that did not think they would advance. So every team needs to be sure and check to make sure that their team has or has not advanced. Should you see a score that is posted incorrectly, please make the complex where you are playing aware of the situation. They are the ones that can then notify us so that we can verify on the game sheet and with the teams that the proper score is being posted. Please do this prior to the start of your next game so that we do not have an issue later in the event. As far as protests, please pay particular attention to the requirements for protests. We do adhere very strictly to that policy. It is in the tournament rules, and we want to make sure that you are following that correctly. I hope that you have a very good time this year. I hope you enjoy the tournament. The weather seems to be nice. However, we do know that we had a lot of rain last week, and we may face some challenges with some of the fields that are currently scheduled to be played. We are monitoring those. As of this time of this video, we have not had any field cancellations. In the event of field cancellations, we will be taking whatever actions we can to try to assure that the tournament is able to play. If we do not have fields in order to play, we will try to play those that are able to be played. If you are canceled for some reason, do not panic. We will cancel that division and we will pick a rescheduled date for that division. At this point, with nothing to be rescheduled, we do not have a date to announce. but we will announce it should we reach that point. I hope that you have a great time. If any questions, if you have any issues, please understand every complex has a complex director. That complex director is empowered to be able to make decisions out there at the park in regards to the tournament. That is your contact person. That is the person to go to. Please do not take issues up directly with the referees. Please do not take it up with the field marshals. Instead, ask at the tournament headquarters tent for the complex director. That is the first step to trying to resolve an issue. Congratulations again. Welcome to the tournament, and have a great time.